This tape reports a historic development, the application of the Transcendental Meditation Program to the field of criminal law and criminal justice by leaders in that field. Judges in every country give an evolutionary direction to society. Traditionally, judges, being less susceptible to the influence of collective consciousness and working in the relatively quieter atmosphere of the courtroom, are able to initiate progressive new ideas for society. One such innovative and creative judge is Judge David Mason of the Circuit Court in St. Louis in Missouri. He has very carefully studied the research on transcendental meditation and its application to criminal justice. On the 11th of March 1996, Judge Mason in his courtroom before 3 TV stations proclaimed his intention to use transcendental meditation in his sentencing. I was also interviewed by these stations. These interviews were shown on the 10 o'clock news along with very positive commentaries. The judge gave a very beautiful and articulate explanation as to why the TM program would be that one addition to probation orders that could make probation possible for a much larger number of defendants than has been possible hitherto. True to his word, in the same week, Judge Mason made transcendental meditation a part of a defendant's sentence. The defendant concerned would have to do a custodial sentence for 120 days, during which time he would receive conventional drug abuse treatment. The judge ordered that at the end of this period, and as a condition of his probation, the defendant should learn transcendental meditation. The defendant and his lawyer both agreed to do this. Judge Mason's strategy and approach is to develop a group of 300 probationers in Missouri practicing transcendental meditation. Judge Mason wants this group to be studied more closely. He is confident that there will be a high enough success rate for the state of Missouri to be able to fund a much broader program. By fall of 1996, Judge Mason had sentenced several defendants to the Transcendental Meditation Program. On October 24th, the Enlightened Sentencing Project was formally inaugurated at the newly established TM Teaching Center for Probationers in St. Louis. This beautiful project was inaugurated in the presence of many legal luminaries, state representatives, and other dignitaries, friends and well-wishers, including the first defendant who had learned transcendental meditation. The Honorable Stephen N. Limbaugh, Jr., Justice of the Missouri Supreme Court, presided over the inauguration. Justice Limbaugh is co-chair of the Supreme Court Task Force on Children and Families. He also has been a member of the Division of Youth Services State Advisory Board, a circuit court judge, and a prosecuting attorney. The judge's extensive background in criminal justice and strong interest in solutions to the problems of addiction, crime, and delinquency led him to take a personal role in the incorporation of transcendental meditation into Missouri's correctional system. The keynote speaker was the Honorable David C. Mason, Judge of the 22nd Judicial Circuit of Missouri. Before being appointed to the Circuit Court, Judge Mason was Chief Legal Counsel for the Missouri Department of Corrections and an Assistant Attorney General in Missouri. He was a national debate champion, both as an undergraduate and as a law student at Washington University School of Law in St. Louis. In 1993, the American Board of Trial Advocates inducted Judge Mason as an honorary member. He is an adjunct professor of law at Washington University, teaching trial practice and coaching the highly successful trial competition team. He has also served on the faculty at the Yeshiva University, Benjamin Cardozo School of Law. Judge Mason has thoroughly researched the Transcendental Meditation Program. He has a very complete understanding of the TM technique and how it works in the criminal justice system. Yet more than this intellectual understanding, I think that it is Judge Mason's deep compassion for the youth of St. Louis, his hope that they can make their lives better, that has led him to incorporate TM in his sentencing strategy. A special guest at the inauguration was the Honorable Sherry B. Sullivan, also a judge of the 22nd Judicial Circuit of Missouri. Judge Sullivan has spent many years as a judge, and like Justice Limbaugh has served previously as a prosecuting attorney. According to Judge Sullivan, raising the consciousness of the offender through the TM program is the best approach to solving the crisis in criminal justice. Representative Sue Shear of the Missouri State Legislature also addressed the inauguration. She gave her strong support of the TM program as an alternative to imprisonment and as a way to reduce crime and the problems it causes in our society. Representative Shear is a dearly loved state representative who has served Missouri in that role for 24 years. She has been honored many times for her continuous leadership for progressive causes in the state. The welcoming address was given by Mr. Thomas M. Newmark, attorney at law and senior partner in a prominent St. Louis-based law firm. Attorney Newmark has practiced law for 20 years and published several legal articles. He is a well-known member of the bar in Missouri, a member of the bar of the United States Supreme Court and of the U.S. federal court system. He is also a teacher of the Transcendental Meditation Program and a strong advocate for the use of TM throughout the criminal justice system. We now present for you the inauguration of the Enlightened Sentencing Project.
Good afternoon, everyone, and it's a great joy and delight to welcome all of you here to this inaugural celebration of the founding of our new center here for the teaching of TM for probationers. I would like to start by acknowledging the presence of legal luminaries here and enlightened state representatives and other dignitaries who have taken the time to come here and celebrate this occasion with us. Justice Limbaugh is an old friend. I have known him for about 3 years now, but for him, I would not be in Missouri and we would not be seeing this day over here today. He personally took me to Dora Shiro, the Director of Corrections, and also to the Directors of Youth Services, and he has been a silent partner and a guiding hand in my activities here in Missouri. Same goes for my association with Judge Sherry Sullivan. She too has been a most gracious guide and friend and help. And ultimately, I met Judge David Mason. And what we see here this morning is the inauguration of the Consciousness School of Jurisprudence. Judges, being in the silent atmosphere of the courtroom, are often able to initiate progressive new ideas for society. And the representatives of the judiciary that we have here today are the pioneers of the Consciousness School of Jurisprudence. They have seen, they have glimpsed the element of consciousness being that one element whereby orderliness could be structured in the individual and society. The field of corrections, unfortunately, and the criminal justice system, although recognizing the element of mens rea and the element of the mind being involved in criminal activities, has not utilized a program or strategy that goes to the heart of the matter. Judges for the last 40, 50, 60 years have been giving out sentences in the hope that the sciences of psychiatry and psychology will redeem the offender. The offender would come out of prison cleansed and healed in the same way that people come out of hospital treated and come out cured. But that hope of society has not come out to be true. What is needed is a deeper element, the element of consciousness. Our thinking, our actions are based on our thinking, and our thinking is based on our consciousness. And what modern psychiatry and what modern psychological counseling lack is the ability to bring orderliness from the field of consciousness. It's like this plant here. If I want to make this plant healthy and green and vital and strong, I can spray the leaves with water and there will be some sparkle and sheen to the leaves here. But the intelligent gardener will provide nourishment at the roots of the plant, and thereby one can bring vitality and strength and beauty and health and grace to the plant. Likewise is the element of consciousness. And the TM program allows us to open our awareness to this silent, most orderly field of consciousness. Experiencing that, what happens is our thoughts and actions take on a positive direction, take on an orderly direction. If this one element were incorporated into the strategies of the criminal justice system, into the correctional strategies that every state uses, we would have great and grand successes. Unfortunately, the strategies that they are using, the water the leaf strategies that correctional systems everywhere are using, have made society and all of us cynical about the ability of correctional systems to correct or rehabilitate. So this morning, I congratulate and applaud what the judges here in St. Louis have done. Judge David Mason on the 11th of March this year called me and said, look, I have been studying the scientific research that you have left with me. I am convinced that this is a correctional tool that must be used. There are going to be some TV stations who are coming here to interview me about this, and I want you to be here to answer questions. And sure enough, when we went there, there were 3 TV stations there in the judge's courtroom. They spoke to the judge, they spoke to me, and they were shown on the 10 o'clock news. The judge in his comments said that he would be sentencing the first offender, the first of many offenders in his courtroom, provided the circumstances warranted, to the practice of TM. And sure enough, in an appropriate case, Judge Mason, within a matter of days, sentenced the first offender in his court to the practice of Transcendental Meditation. Since then, the judge has sentenced as many as 10 offenders in this practice. And what he wants, and what I understand some of the other judges who are supporting Judge Mason's endeavor want, is a sizable group, as many as 300, 400 offenders, practicing this program to produce a decisive effect. There is no question that Transcendental Meditation is a very powerful correctional tool. There are 500 studies done on the TM program, many of them in correctional settings. There is no question that the TM program reduces recidivism. There are studies done in California in maximum security prisons such as Folsom and San Quentin, which showed that inmates who participated in the TM program did not recidivate by as much as 35 to 40%. A similar study was done in Michigan, in Massachusetts, which also corroborated this study. So there is no question that the TM program is an excellent program in the field of corrections. If this program were instituted, you would not see riots inside prisons. You would not see assaults inside prisons. But more importantly, the judges here who are visionary, I don't mean visionary in the sense of utopian or hopelessly idealistic. The judges here who are far-sighted want this program as a prevention. Give the man a chance. And what better than to introduce this program, say, in the educational system, so that the thought and action of the growing youngster is always in a progressive, positive, evolutionary direction. What better utilization of this program than to give offenders a chance to experience their full potential, to experience the source of their energy, vitality, the thinking, enkindle their creativity, enkindle their consciousness. And this is what Judge Mason has glimpsed. This is what Judge Sherry Sullivan has glimpsed. This is what Justice Stephen Limbaugh wants to see incorporated as part and parcel of the criminal justice system. Once this program, the technology of consciousness, is incorporated, the criminal justice system will breathe new vitality. The correctional systems will succeed. The legislators and state representatives will not find it a pinch to keep on supporting programs that do not work. Here is a strategy which is scientifically borne out, it is scientifically researched, it delivers what the criminal justice system and correctional systems have been looking for ages. So with this, I'm going to introduce Attorney Tom Newmark, who is a well-known member of the bar here. He's a pillar of his community. And it was Tom who actually introduced me to Judge David Mason. And I would invite Tom to address this august gathering here this afternoon.
Thank you, Farooq. This is one of the most thrilling and important occasions that I've had the pleasure to participate in as a lawyer. I have been a lawyer in this community for almost 20 years. My family has been in the law for 60 years. And I am in the presence of so many members of the court, and I'm a court officer. I take that responsibility very seriously. And when I was sworn in to practice law, I took an oath to defend those who were disadvantaged and to never turn away from those who, for any number of circumstances, found themselves in distress. And now we find that our society is disadvantaged, and our society, for any number of reasons, is in distress. In the last 30 years, the crime rate in this country has risen by 30%. And we can't just simply keep on spending money. Money is not available to spend on incarceration. We need money to spend to uplift the society and not simply to throw those into incubators to create even more heinous criminal conduct. If we can't spend money on building prisons, then what shall we do? And lest any of you think that I am unnecessarily dismissing the fiscal and prison building approach as the appropriate remedy, consider that in California from 1980 to 1992, $3.8 billion have been spent on building new prisons. And California has quadrupled its prison inmate population. And its rate of violent crime has risen every year, and now it is 10 times what it was 10 years ago. It doesn't work. And throwing people in jail doesn't mean that their stress levels go down, or that they all of a sudden will have the vision or the understanding to be able to act in accordance with what our society and our nation deem to be appropriate behavior and to what the family of citizens in our community deems to be appropriate. We can't also just hire more policemen. Policemen are our friends. We adore their conduct. They are heroes in our society. We just passed a bill to put 100,000 new policemen on the streets. But does that work? The highest crime rate in the country is in Washington, D.C., which has the highest ratio of policemen to citizens. So we put our beloved police officers in an environment of lawlessness and violence and stress, expose their lives to peril, and we don't support them by reducing stress and peril and violence in the society. So we can't use the legislative muscle that is in this room simply to hire more policemen and to build more prisons. You all should keep on doing that. We applaud that approach. We're not in favor of relaxing the penal codes. But let's do something to relieve the terrible stress and congestion within the prisons. And how do we do that? What we know is that young men and women who are school dropouts, who have drug and alcohol problems, those are the prime candidates for careers of lawlessness. Can we do something to clear up the thinking of those young men and women? Can we do something to resolve the stress, relieve the stress and tension in their lives? And the answer, as Mr. Ankalasaria has already indicated and has been established in the laboratories of communities all around the world, is the use of the TM program. And what's wonderful about what the judges have done here is that all around the world we've been using the TM technique in prison inmate populations, which reduces recidivism, which reduces inmate violence, and that's great, but that's an after-the-fact remedy. What these visionaries on the bench are saying is, let's give these youthful offenders a real second chance. Don't just put somebody on probation and say, okay, now try and do better. Let's give them the tools of consciousness to actually enable them to have the clarity of thought and the harmony within their lives to have a more productive life in accordance with our nation's laws and natural law. And that's what the great vision is here. Is this a Herculean task? Sure it is. We have an epidemic of crime in our country. Hercules was asked to clean up the stables of Rome. What these judges and what all of us here are asking our society to do is clean up the stables of home. And this is my home. I raised my family here. I want them to be free from the threat of violence. The FBI's most recent crime report says that every citizen has a realistic chance of being murdered because of the epidemic of random violence in our society. We can't have that. And therefore, I applaud these heroes. I've known Judge Mason for years. We were at the same law school where he was a national champion. We've worked at the university together in the Alumni Affairs Office and on the Board of Governors of the Alumni Association. It was my honor to introduce Mr. Ankalasario to Judge Mason. And I want to say from the bottom of my heart that I think that Judge Mason is a hero in our society for what he has done. And what we have here is the promise to do more than pay lip service to the idea of prevention, but to actually do something that works. And therefore, it is my very great honor, Judge Mason, to turn the platform over to you. He is a distinguished academic. He was a fine private practitioner, and he is a light of enlightenment and a light of inspiration on the bench. And good luck and Godspeed. Judge Mason.
I really appreciate that. It's probably better than what my mother would say about me. But I got to tell you something. I'm really not a hero. Okay, I'm really not. What I am is I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm a black American who grew up in a tough neighborhood, both in the years I lived in Nashville, Tennessee, and the years that I lived in New York City. I'm a black man who faced the temptations of crime on a daily basis and once or twice gave in to those temptations. I'm a black man who has seen friends die from drugs, friends live in prison, family members engage in violence, engage in addiction. I work hard, I get through, I take a job, and day after day, I see guys just like myself, day after day, in a job that empowers me to do not much more than throw them in jail, lock them in jail, and throw away the key. I try probation, where it's appropriate. The rules don't give me much room. Society doesn't give me much room. And I send these guys into these programs that have been in place for years and years and years, continue to not necessarily fail. Missouri has a better success rate than a lot of states, and that has a lot to do with the competency of our Office of Probation and Parole. They're some true heroes if you really want the truth about it. But nonetheless, there's so much failure that I think could be improved on. We in this country 20, 30 years ago said, hey, we got a crime problem, what are we going to do? Let's just get tougher, let's put more people in jail. Not one study existed to say that if you put more people in jail, crime will go down. Not one. So then you said, well, these aren't really working, let's try a few more things. We threw in aggression training. You check back to when that stuff first came in, you won't find any studies to really back it. Although there are some successes, we went into it blind. And any number of things. Well, let's make them get GEDs. Let's tell them that there's job training out there. All these things we jumped into, signed away millions in this state, billions across the country, with nothing to really say that there was any real expectation of success, any expectation of return for the dollar. Why do we as a people jump so quickly into all these things, but spend so much money and have such difficulty with something like this? Well, we tend to look at the offender as being someone who's going to respond to things exactly the way we do. We say to ourselves, well, gee, I don't want to go to jail for 10 years, so a 10-year minimum for your second or third drug offense, that should do it. I mean, I wouldn't want to commit an offense if I knew I had to go to jail for 10 years, so that should do it. But see, you don't go back to a place where everybody around you is pushing you to do it. You don't go back to a place where no one around you is earning a significant living from doing anything else. You don't go back to a place where you have kids out there that you're scared to even, really inside scared to even deal with, because you as a father know you can't provide for them. You don't have that stress on you for the immediate need to give some money to your children, to the mother of your children, to your own mother who needs it, to your own brother who needs it. So you start looking for easy ways out. You start looking for easy ways out. See, the average citizen doesn't have that. The people who think, let's just put more and more people in jail, they can't understand how that can overcome the fear of prison, because it's not a part of their lives. There's nothing that they deal with. So they think logically, gee, we keep making more crimes tougher and tougher, and now we're going to put 14-year-olds in jail forever, etc. That should do it. Well, it ain't going to do it. Because the real issue is, how are we helping the people who are at risk to commit crime develop something from within to help them avoid the next crime? See, all the drug counselors that you have in the state will not be at the corner of Cook and Graham when one of my offenders are being tempted to either buy, use, or sell. That counselor won't be there. I want to be there. all that'll be there are people saying, oh man, nobody's gonna catch us. You can do this. Man, the cops were here earlier today. Nobody's around now. We can do this. This is a couple of quick bucks, man. Let's just move a couple of rocks. None of you are there. Am I right? None of these people are there. So, how are my offenders gonna deal with that? There has to be something inside them that makes them personally say, I really don't want to do this. Comes from inside. Now, how do you help someone develop this thing inside them that makes them say that? Well, as you heard from Farouk, just telling them go forth and do no wrong won't do it. Doing drops on them every now and then and threatening to throw them back in jail really won't do it. You know, having a counselor that they see every now and then, every couple of weeks, once a month, can do it for some, but won't do it for a whole lot. And I came across these studies that all talked about how the stress of dealing with feelings of personal inadequacy, the demands of parents and your own children, and for men, the mother of your children, or if you're not, your child, if you're a single mother, the demands of society to be something that's an image on TV that you don't see anywhere in your neighborhood, the demands of people around you to join them in some gang as, you know, the only thing that you have available. All those demands create incredible stress. The great majority of these young men coming in these courts, at their essence, are not bad people. The reason that the stress is there is because it's a struggle between a feeling inside that this really isn't right and everything around pushing in that direction. And no way to deal with going in the direction of what really is right. So all of a sudden, I run into this thing called Syria. And I start getting, and I got a file about this thick on Transcendental Meditation. And I call myself my church, we all call ourselves Baptists. We're Catholics, Baptists. We're Catholics, but we're very much like Baptists. It's a very Holy Spirit-filled kind of ceremony or mass that we have. And, we're really, I guess you can say almost, like fundamentalist Catholics in a way. So I hear this thing about Transcendental Meditation, and Farouk's a nice guy, clean cut, so I listen, and I said, but what am I going to do with some pagan religion? Give me a break, But he keeps talking, and he starts tapping into all of these feelings that I've had all of these years of studying alternatives to crime, sentencing alternatives. He starts tapping in, and he starts saying some things that I find clicks with all these other studies and all this other research that I've read. I said, well, maybe I should read this stuff. So I try to put out my prejudices, those old feelings that if it ain't American, it must not be good. How can anything that them people over there in the eastern part of the world developed be worth anything to us, modern, intellectual thinking Americans? I tried to set that aside, read these studies, and man, lo and behold, kept coming up time after time, page after page. Then I see the National Institute of Health and their stuff, and as it turns out, the meditation technique, Transcendental Meditation technique, is the proven most effective way of helping a person deal with stress in their lives, short of psychotropic drugs. It is truly, nothing that we do now, I guarantee you, can match the research. Nothing that we do now. And then when you add to the fact that this angst, this dealing with all this stuff on the street, fear of being killed, fear of somebody taking you off because what kind of clothes you have on, or the fear that you might have to go after somebody because of the clothes that they have on. You put all that in there and all that stress, and all of a sudden it's like, I wouldn't call it enlightenment as much as it's just a light bulb. I'm saying, well, gee, if we can help offenders get this little simple 20-minute-a-day technique, then when it's done, they've been able to shift all that pain off and start thinking more about self and consciousness of self. Think, well, gee, that would make them appreciate self a little more, right? You start appreciating self a little more, you start thinking, I'm better than a prisoner. I'm better than a drug user. I'm better than abusing my girlfriend. I'm better than an absentee father. I can be a good father. I can do those things. I can do those things. And that consciousness of self starts giving you a consciousness of other people. You start thinking about that woman that you left with those children. You know, she really loves me. And come think of it, I love her. Let me start acting like a good man. Let me start acting like a good father. And my mother, boy, I've been putting her through so much pain. With all this running in the streets and hanging with gang people and using and selling drugs. Let me put that aside and start being a good son. And let me start being good to myself. Let me go out and just work, whatever work I can, and learn what I can, and just go day by day by day by day until I get to where I am. So that's why I stuck my neck out a little bit with this. Because I believe that this technique will help my offenders through the consciousness that raising that occurs, through the stress reduction that occurs. It'll help them better deal with it. And that's the final analysis, is helping them deal with it. Y'all see, you know what I'm talking about. We both been there. We all been there. You know what I'm talking about. Is dealing with it, getting past it. You know, working your way past those people who want to try to get you to do something. That's why I do this. I think that everyone who's here, by varying degrees, isn't necessarily here because they're married or in love or as enthusiastic with the use of the technique as I. But everyone who's here, I can guarantee you, is here because they believe that trial judges better be about the business of doing something more than just throwing people in jail. And we better be about the business of taking a serious look at something a little different, something that has some support, something that has some research behind it. And that's where I'm coming from. This isn't like a glory thing. You know, this is just a tired thing. You know? I mean, I want to see my offenders someday on the street where I don't even think of them offenders. They're just brothers, and we can just talk and kind of laugh about this, and they can tell me how well the technique is working for them. And maybe, yeah, my girlfriend's going to take it too, and this and that. You know, that's what I want to hear. You know, I want to run these guys and say, yeah, just Mason, I've been working here for 3 years, and now I moved up to this and that, and I got my GED, or I got trained in that. That's what I want to hear. I want to hear these guys talking about how happy they are, how successful they're becoming, how strong their relationships with their children and their women have become and their families. That's what I want to hear. I don't want to see these guys come back. I'm tired of having to deal with them coming back. So I appreciate this support here, and especially when you have your colleagues stand with you. You know, I mean, that's great. Julian, I mean, you can't beat that at all. And I suspect a little before too long, if things go right, maybe even not too long, maybe even next week, they'll be kind of standing beside and then perhaps even ahead. And to have a judge on our Supreme Court, one of my bosses, you know, endorse me or support the whole concept of trial judges trying and thinking and trying to be capable is wonderful. And I really thank you for that, Justice Limbaugh. And to have Representative Days, Representative Scheer here, who someday, I promise you, I will be on one of your committees. You know, once I get enough numbers, I will be in one of your committees, and I will talk to you about how if you want to cut down on the money you're spending on corrections, here's the way to do it. So, remember this face, you will see it again. But I just want to thank you. I want to explain to you why I was doing what I was doing, why I think it makes sense to me, and my hope that I'll have your continued support. We have the ceremonial cutting of the ribbon. I don't know, is this the ribbon here? But I want to ask Judges Sullivan, Bush, Justice Limbaugh, and the Representative Scheer and Days to come up and help us cut chunks of this. I'm not holding you any votes now. This is a non-committal cutting of the ribbon, and you don't have to affirm me on anything. Your Honor, if you can start.
Okay, well, we should all do it.
All right. Okay. You guys hold the ribbons up? Yeah.
Set?
Go.
All right.
You may wonder, what is my interest in Transcendental Meditation? And it really stems all the way back to high school in the late 1960s. My closest friend in high school was a fellow named Tom Zimmer. His brother just came in, David Zimmer, who was also one of my close friends, who incidentally is a candidate for Congress in the 8th Congressional District in Southeast Missouri. In any event, Tom Zimmer and I were best friends. Tom was an interesting character. He was the star quarterback on the football team. He was an A student. His aptitude tests always placed him in the top 2 or 3% of the people. He was a handsome guy, immensely popular, and as you might expect, all the girls loved him. And in any event, Tom, after graduation, went off to the University of Missouri, and he was the kind of fellow who was always searching for things. And after a couple of years there, he became involved in the Transcendental Meditation Program. Now, over 20 years later, he's still involved, still active on a full-time basis with him. He's thriving and has found great fulfillment through Transcendental Meditation. I don't get to see him nearly as often as I would like. But in any event, I tell you this story because Tom and David encouraged me to take the course back in, I guess it was 1974, when I was in school in Dallas, Texas. So I went through the Transcendental Meditation course down there, and like the others, I found it just a fine experience. So from my own first-hand experience, I can tell you that Transcendental Meditation is a remarkable meditative technique. It is a technique that produces a refreshing and energizing restfulness. It's a technique that yields a unique and satisfying peace of mind. In a word, it's a technique that is therapeutic. It's something that can be used, as so many of the other speakers have alluded to as an antidote for all the rigors of our lives. It is a quintessential stress reliever. I, prior to my service on the Supreme Court, was a prosecuting attorney for several years, and then after that I was a circuit judge like Judges Bush and Sullivan and Mason. And as such, I either prosecuted or presided over literally hundreds of criminal cases. The people who came before me, or the people who I prosecuted, invariably were people who had troubled minds. They had no peace of mind. And it's my impression that this technique of Transcendental Meditation is something that would be of great benefit to those people. More so than people like my friend Tom Zimmer, or people like you and me here today. Of all the people in our society who need this kind of technique most, it's those. It's truly therapeutic. As Judge Mason alluded to as well, we're in a time where the cost of maintaining our prisons and jails is absolutely overwhelming. It's a crisis in state and national government. And because of that, we judges have been encouraged to consider alternatives to incarceration. And so all of us do that as much as possible. Like psychological and psychiatric counseling, like AA, like inpatient and outpatient substance abuse treatment programs, like programs for restitution, programs for community service work. I see Transcendental Meditation as yet another tool that judges can use for the rehabilitation of the criminal defendants who come before them. Moreover, I think it is an immensely promising tool. And so I want to conclude first by commending Judge Mason for his open-mindedness and for his creativeness in recognizing that Transcendental Meditation may be a very useful tool in the rehabilitation of criminal defenders. And to Farouk Anklasari and your TM staff here, and to the probation officers, and most especially to the probationers who will benefit from this program, I wish you every success. And for those probationers, I look forward to seeing you very shortly as useful and productive citizens of our community. Thank you.
The inauguration of the Enlightened Sentencing Project concluded with a traditional cake cutting and candle lighting ceremony. The representatives of the steering committee for the project, the fundraisers, the directors and teachers of Maharishi Vedic University, the Missouri Judiciary, the Missouri State Legislature, and the project participants, one by one, lit the light symbolic of enlightenment, the state of total rehabilitation, and made their wishes for the success of the project.
On behalf of the judiciary, I light this light. I wish for great success for the program, teaching probationers, TM. I wish for everyone who comes through these doors that they seek and they find enlightenment.
Inspired by the founder of the Transcendental Meditation Program, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and by the profound effectiveness of the TM technique, hundreds of people throughout America and within St. Louis have committed themselves to the application of this program to criminal rehabilitation. The candlelighters and wishmakers seen here in this celebration are representative of this group of dedicated supporters of the Enlightened Sentencing Project.
I have changed my, I'm sorry. What, my wish three or four times since I've heard all these speakers. But I do wish, first of all, for the enlightenment of all of my colleagues in the Missouri Legislature. And I have one right here today, Representative Rita Days, who is already enlightened and is already here. I just want to say that I chair a House and Senate Joint Statutory Committee on Correctional Institutions, and I have been a lone voice for many years looking for alternatives to imprisonment, because I know for sure that we spend millions of dollars building new prisons and the crime goes on. And I see this as a wonderful alternative to imprisonment and a way to reduce crime and all of the problems that we have in our society. So I congratulate the whole TM movement and all the people involved in it. Thank you.
I would first like to acknowledge Terrain Hill, who's sitting over there, for being the first probationer to go through this. Terrain had no idea what he was getting into when he came here today. Again, I would just like to acknowledge Terrain for being the first probationer to go through this program and gain this very precious, very special technique of going deep within and coming out and just simply being ourselves, what we truly are. And so this light is symbolic of that inner light which lies deep within each of us, and yet which is so easily accessible through this very simple, very precious technique. So my wish is that Terrain grows very quickly, very wonderfully with this technique, and is a source of inspiration for the many probationers to come who will be learning this technique, and that this program will be very quickly incorporated not only into the criminal rehabilitation programs that are out there today, but also very quickly by the people who are sentencing criminals with the various sentences.
The inauguration of the Enlightened Sentencing Project in the United States is a very significant and historic step in the field of law and justice. Philosophically, it is a great advance in criminal justice thinking. Philosophically, it takes the field of law and justice in a giant leap forward. So to that extent, Judge David Mason and his colleagues have contributed significantly in advancing the cause of criminal justice. Brilliant and creative judges in every society have traditionally given an evolutionary direction to society. Judge David Mason, Justice Stephen Limbaugh, and Judge Sherry Sullivan are among those few far-sighted and innovative judges who are ushering in the consciousness school of jurisprudence. The limitations and failures of the criminal justice system have logically led them to search for a solution in the field of consciousness, individual and collectively. The judges, through their judgments, have given recognition to the fact that by making consciousness orderly, thought and action are automatically made more orderly. The judges have glimpsed the golden opportunities for the criminal justice system and for society through the development of consciousness. So to that extent, these judges are pioneers. Their judgments are truly historic and will greatly serve to advance the cause of criminal justice. The conclusion that we arrive at from the viewpoint of law, justice and society is that through Maharshi's Transcendental Meditation, through Maharshi's science and technology of consciousness, law and justice can regain their long-lost ability to assure freedom from crime and bring healing hope for the future. Justice, individual and social, is fulfillment. It is the unfoldment, individual and collective, of the full potential in every society. From this inauguration of the Enlightened Sentencing Project in the United States, we envision the full reawakening of justice and new horizons in law, justice and rehabilitation for America and the whole world.